Welcome back to Plague Scythe Studios, everyone. Ryan here with the culmination of several reviews and demos I've done on the channel in the past few months with the micro pedal plank. About a year ago, I stumbled upon these micro preamp pedals from More Audio, and I absolutely fell in love with not only this pedal in particular, which models a Mesa Boogie Mark III, but the concept in general. There's plenty of distortion pedals and preamp pedals that are meant to go in a real power amplifier that, you know, model real amplifiers, but to have it in this form factor at the low cost of $100 or less street price, and to be able to sound as good as it does with all the functionality, like having two channels that are independently controlled, multiple control options, and of course powered by your standard 9-volt, was just a really cool concept to me, so much so that I bought another one here recently, and I've kind of just fallen in love with the micro pedal format. And it's really made me reconsider how I'm going to put together pedal boards going forward, because I mean, you can fit a 30-watt power amp into something this big, off of 24-volt power supplies, that is, but still, if it's not something that's like a super niche product, I really don't think I'm going to consider many more products that aren't in this, you know, this size. I absolutely love it. As such, I've bought a lot more micro pedals since owning these, and some of them are on this plank you see behind me. This pedal board attempts to solve one of the age-old problems that every electric guitarist has had at some point, including myself. Whether I would go home from college or traveling to the lake for a weekend, bringing something to play electric guitar through has always been a royal pain in the ass. And if friends wanted to hear me play, then I had to bring my 50-pound combo amplifier, which was always intrusive. You can never turn it up loud enough indoors to make it sound decent, and then outdoors you have to worry about it getting wet or being exposed to the environment. So that always sucked. And then, there was just never anything that was good to replicate that. Eventually I started just bringing a laptop with a USB interface, but then plugging that into other stuff became a little bit of a hassle, and just having to worry about, again, bringing something that expensive that I'd used for many other things than just loading VSTs. So when I came across this micro pedal format, that was one of my thoughts. Is like, oh, I could probably use this as a really good backup board. And then that idea turned into, why don't I just use it as a travel rig and something that I could actually use pairing with other gear if I needed to, because they are that capable. So we'll just walk through here and talk about the pedal board I threw together in the past few months. Now, I've acquired and sold off more than a handful of pedals over the past year or so for several different pedal board projects that I'd like to get started with at some point, but this one was the most urgent, considering that I know I'll be traveling a little bit here and there. And this actually started over Christmas of last year, 2017 that is, and just kind of started out. I'd already had a few of these pedals and thought, these are really awesome on their own. These can do a lot of sounds for me. If I throw in just like one or two more, I could really get by with like gigging with this thing if I had to. Be a little limited, but for the most part, it could get stuff done. And 5 just kind of became that magic number. So I just threw a micro pedal, started tracing dimensions, and came up with this basically free pedal board, minus the zip ties and Velcro. Basically, my dad had some 1x4 planks laying around, started chopping stuff up and gluing stuff, nailing stuff together, and came out with this as a product. And if you wanted to replicate something like this, obviously it wouldn't be that expensive. Perhaps you also have the privilege of having parents with a nice workshop that you can take spare materials and do this for no cost as well. But yeah, threw some of that, threw some barn paint on it, and was pretty much good to go. One little nifty thing that I did with this, it's not just a flat board, and this is something I did intentionally think ahead on. Although I was initially going to do something a bit different. So on the back here, you see there's this monstrous power supply, and that's actually to our 12-volt powered Moore radar. And I initially had thought about putting a 9-volt there, but again, this is 12 volts, so that wouldn't have flown. And like Donner and a couple other manufacturers make some that you can split off to 12 volt. But by the time I started looking at it, I thought, you know what, it'd actually be less clutter just to use like a one spot or a Donner power supply for all the 9 volts and run that separately. So that's basically what I did. And because of that angle there, I have enough room to where that can rest underneath, and it gives you a nice, you know, little platform, a different angle to you know, actually hit the switches is a bit more comfortable than flat, at least in my opinion. So that's the pedal board. It's just like homemade. You can do whatever you want with it, but to make it as tight as the dimensions that I have, that is why I went homemade myself. To touch on each pedal individually, the first pedal here needs no introduction, although it's perhaps in a different form than you may be used to seeing it. This is the Ibanez Tube Screamer 808 Mini. I love this pedal. I traded a TS9 in for this because I wanted an 808 and I was expecting to pay a little bit more for it. And just turned out that my local music shop had this miniature pedal, and I thought, oh, okay, that's freaking sweet. It's almost the exact same footprint as my Moorer pedals, and it's the iconic 808, and sounds just like it. Exact same response. It works perfectly in front of real tube amps, and just an all-around great pedal to have, especially if you're tight on space on your pedal board, because it is the real deal. As with most people, I use this to boost a high gain amp for my metal sound, as well as using it for a little bit of dirt in front of a clean channel if that's what you're going for. Overall, fantastic pedal. I'm more of a super overdrive type guy myself, but you can fit this in your pocket on the go if you're doing, you know, gigging with other real amplifiers, and I would still consider having something like this, even if you're not going to build the rest of it, because it's such a cool form factor and it sounds like the real thing, because it really is the real thing. It uses the same silicon chip and everything, just in a smaller chassis. The next pedal I acquired a couple months ago and is the Moorer Pure Boost. It's kind of a clean boost, it's kind of an equalizer. It's not amazing at doing either of those things, but when combined, it does exactly what I wanted it to. So there'll be some instances where I thought, okay, I'd like to boost this solo and be able to, you know, just have a clean boost to you know, throw a little bit more heat in front of the amp. Or there'd be parts where I think, okay, the Tube Screamer is just a little bit too much for this genre. I'd really just like to back off on the bass, turn up the treble, do some Tony Iommi style treble boosting to an amp and get a more classic rock tone. And this can do both of those things. So you have obviously your big gain knob, which unfortunately doesn't really sound like a clean boost the higher you go. It's not just like, okay, we're raising your signal by 6 decibels. It does sound like there's a little bit of dirt distortion going on in there, so I usually don't take it past like the 9 o'clock region. But what does work well are the volume, treble, and bass. So I always roll off on the bass, boost the treble a little bit, and especially if you're using a more classic style preamp pedal, then you can get some really nice classic rock and less distorted tones. If you just want more out of the more out of the preamp, then you can, you know, throw a little bit of a clean boost and mess with the EQ and get a little bit more of that chop off the bottom, boost the treble that works really well for that genre. Pedal number 3 is the cornerstone of this build, and this is the Moorer Micro Preamp 011 Cali Dual, which is based off of the dual rectifier preamp. And like I said, this is the 008 based off of the Mark III. You can interchange these. You can use whatever of the series you like. Any other micro preamp style pedal you could fit in there. I know there's like some Ingles, a Marshall, and a Diesel, which would sound great for high gain stuff, but this works really well for me. And I probably could have extended this or even sacrificed another pedal and put this in here, but they're both Mesas, and the way I'd use this works well enough for me just to have one at a time. Absolutely phenomenal sounding pedal. I have reviews of both of these. This one especially, you can tell how close they got because I compare it to my single rectifier. preamp to preamp, although I kind of had like the higher presence setting on that, so it wasn't perfect, but it's pretty damn close. And love this line of pedals, like I said, and it works really nicely because you have both the clean channel and crunch channel, or overdrive channel in this case, with independent controls. So you can set everything to 10 on one, you can set everything to noon on the other, and it'll keep those controls between the two channels. And sounds great. Professional Kemper Axe Effects level of quality. Not quite, but pretty close. Pedal number 4 is the most recent addition, and this is yet another Moorer pedal. It's called the Baby Water. What a unfortunate name that is. This is actually supposed to be an acoustic pedal because it combines chorus and delay into one, but I'd seen several reviews of people saying, yeah, I use it for both and it sounds great for electric, and I'd have to concur. When it comes to like bare bones effects, as far as like leads and cleans go, I can get by with a chorus and a delay. Delay doesn't necessarily have as much breakup and the kind of whoosh sound I like in reverbs, but if I had to, you know, slim it down, then it would definitely, delay would definitely win over reverb. And chorus is nice for cleans as well as thickening up solos, more so than for me than flangers and phasers for the kind of stuff that I play. So when I saw there was a micro pedal that combined those two, I was like, yeah, it probably fits the bill. And fits the bill it does. It sounds really nice, both in a high gain scenario and clean stuff as well. So you actually have 5 modes, which is chorus only, a tri-chorus, which sounds really lovely with clean stuff, echo, which is like your delay only. You can adjust the feedback and timing on that, as well as the rate and depth on the chorus settings. Then you have a chorus, then delay, and then delay, then chorus. These last two effects really just determine the balance of the effects. So chorus delay, the chorus is louder, delay chorus, the delay is louder. But every one of them are really useful, and I especially find that the last setting with delay and chorus really makes your leads shine, whereas the stuff like the tri-chorus and the chorus delay are really nice for cleans. Last but certainly not least is a pedal that probably would have been my favorite of 2017 were it not for Mike Fortin's 33 over there. And this is the Moorer Radar. This is an impulse response loader, but can actually also do EQ as well as power amp simulation. So for the impulse response side, you have, I believe, 36 stock presets that come with different impulse responses of real cabinets. Anything from 1x8s, 1x10s, 1x12s, 2x10s, 2x12s, 4x12s, 4x10s, 8x10s. I think there's even a couple 15-inch bass cabinets in there as well. You can choose different microphone impulse responses. Of course, you've got your Neumann and Shure stuff. I think even a Royer in there, bunch of options as far as that goes. Then you can choose different models of power amps depending on the tube type, and they sound like they're supposed to be modeled after actual power amps of their respective amplifiers. So the EL34 sounds like a Marshall power amp, 606 more like a Mesa stuff. You get the point. And the EQ really comes in handy for dialing out those fuzzy and boomy frequencies if you're throwing it out through something like a flat speaker, but you don't have to, because there's also a headphone jack, which is one of the coolest features about this pedal and about this rig in general, is being able to play it silently when you want to. But of course, you don't have to. You can take that out to whatever loudspeaker solution you have, and this thing sounds great through even the crappiest PAs. I have like an 8-inch speaker set up and cranked loud. I mean, it sounds like a real guitar rig. I was really impressed with that, and of course, playing through a nice pair of headphones will get you in the same ballpark and sound really good. Definitely beats like the Korg and Zoom, or Zoom, not Zune, they're out of business, multi-effects units that I grew up with to do something very similar. Of course, you can also load your own custom impulse responses on this pedal. That way, if you have an extensive library of own hammer or red wires, impulse responses, or you made your own and you'd like to take the sound of your cabinet on the go with you, you can definitely do that. Just chuck it on there with the Moore Studio software and you're ready to go. For this sort of setup, you're looking at around the $500 US price range. Of course, it'll depend on which exact pedal you're using. If you don't need as many, you can always, take something out and shorten the board. If you need more, you can extend it and throw whatever you want in there, or switch out. If you'd rather have a noise gate than a chorus pedal, you can do that as well. Tube screamer you'll find from around 75 to 100 bucks. That's the absolute most I'd pay for it, because I paid like 60 to 75 in this condition. It's really not a big deal to find those right now. The micro pure boost is around the $50 price range, brand new. It's actually less a lot of the time, so that won't eat your wallet too bad. The micro preamps are between 80 and 100, depending on if they're brand new or used. This is around the $50 price point again, and brand new, this is about 180. Sure, you can find it cheaper used. Spare materials, so I didn't pay much for that. Velcro, 5 to 10 bucks, and everything else is pretty much included, besides the guitars and the headphones or whatever solution you're using to power this thing, which of course will run you up in cost a little bit. And there's some cheaper all-in-one solutions that may be more capable on paper. Whether they sound as good as this does, you just have to try it out. Most of them don't, in my opinion, unless you get some really nice gear that's just a few years old and you get it cheaply. But this thing has so many advantages going for it for my use case. Number one, it's super portable. Having something that's that small, I could just like shove it in a pocket in my backpack and be ready to go. It doesn't take up any more room than that. It's also recording worthy. I mean, you chuck the right impulse response in this and you get the micro preamp that suits your needs. I mean, you can make an album out of it and it sounds absolutely stellar. And you can't buy a tube amp head and all the other equipment you need to record something of that quality for 500 bucks. You can kind of get by with it with this. One of the earliest videos I made on this channel was a $250 guitar pedal rig. And it went something similar like this, except it was using mostly full-size pedals, although I was using another micro preamp. And I gotta tell you, for double the money, you get a lot more value out of it. And I think if I were starting over, instead of buying a combo amp, I'd probably do something like this first and get something I could plug into the effects loop when I wanna play through an amplifier or even a full range flat response speaker. And yeah, I just really love the way this came out. I can't wait to get some more use into it. I can still use it right now, just bypass the radar, throw it in front of a tube power amp, and sounds awesome. So yeah, that is my mostly Moore Audio micro pedal plank pedal board. Hope you enjoyed that. Had a lot of fun playing through this thing, putting it together over the past few months, and hopefully we'll get to some more pedal boards here sooner rather than later, because I've got plenty of stuff for it. I just need to mop up a couple extra parts and we'll be ready to roll on those. So yeah, let me know if you have something similar to this or plan on putting together a micro rig of your own. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.